we're on our way from Jacksonville down to St. Augustine, to the Fishbites headquarters, the Fishbites Trading Post, where we will be for their Veterans Day sale all day long. So it's going to be a very fun day, meeting a lot of people, seeing a lot of fans. I'm super excited. Obviously, I have my trusty sidekick, workbench guru Dave Ferrell, with me as well. So he's in his truck and I'm in mine, and we're on our way to our next destination for our North Florida adventures this week.
I'm going to talk a lot about everything that I don't know about. Wahoos and dolphins and trolling and some bottom fishing.
Nice.
Everything. Now we're going to talk a little bit about wahoo, and obviously when we're wahoo fishing, when I'm doing any fishing here, I fish out of the Cape mostly, but you have to use wire here. We have too many barracudas, Spanish mackerels, and wahoos, fish with really toothy mouths, and so I use single strand wire. This is, I think, number 7, which is usually what I use. A lot of guys use 9 and 10 when they're fishing for wahoos, using great big stuff, you know, 80 size 80 wide reels.
Yeah, so.
But I'm gonna go a little bit different, you know.
Yeah, here, come here.
We talk a lot about going high speed trolling, 12 to 14 knots. You have to use big gear to do that. You have to have at least 50s, 80s are preferable. When you're going that fast, the shock of the bite is tremendous, so your drag has to be set appropriately. There's a lot of technical stuff that goes on when you're trolling fast for wahoos. The thing is, once you find wahoos, you don't have to go that fast to catch them. You know, they say wahoo are chasers. Well, they'll chase something going 8 knots just as readily as they will chase something going 14 knots. Trust me, we've caught a lot of wahoos before we started doing high-speed trolling. And I never troll more than 8 knots usually. I'll troll as fast as my baits will stay in the water, but usually if you're using regular trolling baits, they're not going to stay in the water unless you have some trolling sinkers and stuff like that. They have all this kind of stuff inside there. These trolling sinkers will let you troll sea witches and island lures as fast as you can troll some of these other big lures. And that's what these are for, is just to keep it down in the water. It's not trying to go deeper and deeper. Wahoo don't swim any deeper than any of these pelagic fish that we're after. We keep it deep because when we're going fast, it has to stay in the water. They don't like to eat stuff that's going so fast that it's tumbling. No fish likes that. As a matter of fact, anytime your baits start to tumble, slow down. You're going too fast for conditions for any of these fish that I'm going to talk about. But trolling weights and planers, they're always a must-have when you're wahoo fishing. Again, we're trying to keep the bait underneath the water at a higher rate of speed. But even 8 knots we can use a planer and any of these lures I've got up here. This lure, this is not a lure, but if you're fishing for wahoos, high speed or any speed really, a black skirt or a purple skirt with several 4-5 ounce egg sinkers shoved up in the top of it with a double hook rig hanging out of it, like this one. Nice big double hook rig like that. A wahoo will eat this just as readily as he'll eat this. Doesn't matter to a wahoo. If it's smaller than he is, moving fast through the water, he can eat it. And he's never seen anything moving smaller than he is in the water that he couldn't eat. So he's going to jump on this just as readily as he's going to jump on this $50, $100 lure here. I think this costs $10 or $19. This will be the most expensive part, your hook set. And this is the only time that I use double hook sets. If I'm fishing for wahoo, I don't fish double hook sets for any other fish. They're dangerous for you. They're dangerous for the fish. You miss a lot of fish because every time he can bite here on one of these bites and doesn't get hooked, that's no bueno. It's good if he eats inside he's going to hit it in the head, or if he eats up here on the lure, he might get hooked. But if he grabs one of these, you're likely to lose him. And the faster you're going, the more likely that is to happen. So I like to slow down. Try to use a single hook rig for any other things other than a Wahoo. The bad thing about the double hook rig, if you catch a dolphin or even a tuna, big tuna, you got one hook in the fish and one hook flailing around. If a guy reaches in to get the fish out, do a gaff job, he can get hooked up in that other hook. It's just not a good thing, especially when you're marlin fishing. This was the hook of the day back in the day, 20, 30 years ago. This is what all the marlin fishermen used. And they figured out not too long, if you take away this front hook and just troll the back hook all the way to the back of the skirt, this is not even, I think, if it's IGFA legal, as long as the eye of the hook is in the skirt. Now, a lot of people don't care about IGFA legal, but it doesn't matter because the hook back here does a much better job than it does up here. If any fish tries to grab it up here and gets on top of this head, he can slip off before he hits this first hook. If he eats this head, and we've only got one hook back here, and he lets go, this one is going to find him in the side of the head, usually, or on the top lip, or in the top of the jaw. So, and then we don't have two hooks swinging around. It's better to just have the one, especially when we're marlin fishing and whatnot. But if you're wahoo fishing, this is the kind of thing the guys are pulling up here. Big, heavy lures. I don't know why a wahoo would eat this, but they do. It's, it's a freaking, they call it a knucklehead or a knuckle buster or I actually fished with one of these one time. We were trying to catch small striped marlin in Ecuador, and a guy brought something like this out and put the biggest ballyhoo I've ever seen on it. And then we proceeded to go 0 for 11 trying to hook little striped marlins under 100 pounds on something gigantic like this. Wahoos will smash it. It's going, they usually, if you're pulling this, you're pulling it hella fast. Otherwise, it's sinking to the bottom and anchor because you got to go fast to make this thing get up in the water column. They work. I don't know why, but bubble trails don't mean anything. If you see a tuna fish swimming, anything that breaks the surface and goes under the water, they don't leave bubble trails. Bubble trails is for us. We can see our lures better. We can see them popping and skipping. Same thing with color on most of these things. Most pelagic fish can't see any colors at all, only blue. Yellowfin tuna can see colors. Striped marlin can see a little bit, which is whitey. He can see a little bit of yellows and green only if he's looking up, because all of his cones, the very few that he have, are on the bottom of his eye. So when he's looking up, he can see a little bit of yellow and green. All the other fish out there that we're trying to catch can only see in shades of blue. They don't have any cones in their eyes. They're all rods, and that's how they can tell what colors a fish can see, by dissecting their eyeballs. They figured this out by using sharks back in the day. They could lay a shark, because he doesn't have to move, not all of them, so they can lay a shark in a foam bed, and they'll flash a light, give him a shock. Flash a light, give him a shock, and they'll keep moving that light further away or changing colors to figure out what the shark can see. And as soon as they flash that light, the shark goes, ah! Without the shock, they know he can see that color because he saw it, right? So reds, first thing that goes away. I love to pull a red and black for wahoos. It's the first color that goes away underwater. In any direction, 30 feet, sometimes a lot less, depending on the color, the turbidity of the water, this turns to gray. When you guys are fishing pink and red in 100 feet of water for snappers and whatnot, and you swear to God on that pink or red, it's gray when it gets down there. All the little red fish that you catch out there on the reef, I wonder why they're red. Because they disappear once they get down so deep. They have a really cool display in Chattanooga Aquarium where they have one of those little rotating lights that you used to have on the Christmas tree. that would show different. Some of you people are old enough to know. It spun around and would flash different lights on. Well, they have one of those that it's flashing into the water, and they have a ton of these little red fish in there. And as soon as that thing gets down to the color that the depth that we're talking about, 100 feet, 200 feet or whatever, you can watch the fish actually disappear in front of your eyes when that light gets to that color. Because red disappears. So red is good for us because I can be trolling along and I can look back and say, I can see my stuff really quickly, and I can look behind it and see if there's anything following it. So a lot of these colors are for us. This lure here has probably caught more marlin than any lure on the east coast of the United States. And the reason being is because every boat pulls one of these. Same way with moldcraft, a wide range. They'd catch a ton of fish because everybody's got one out, usually. Back in the day, everybody pulled a wide range. The wide range caught tons of fish. Same way with this blue and white islander. You put a ballyhoo in here, a nice big horse ballyhoo with a single hook as far back as you can go. Blue marlin will climb all over it. It looks kind of like a flying fish. The interesting thing is the guy who invented this, the island lure, made them because he was tired of pulling baits. He hated to buy bait and pull bait. So he invented these to work without bait. And we all put bait in them. They work without bait. They work great without bait, because when you have a big chunk of ballyhoo in here in front of your hook, or your ballyhoo is around the hook, and a fish comes to eat it, he's got to go through all that ballyhoo to get to the hook. With this thing, if you just had a piece of wire and a 6/0 or a 7/0 in it, there's nothing but this hair, which was so great about this lure. This hair is nothing. Bam, hook up. And you can't troll it as fast because it's not as heavy, unless you now they make some weighted ones. But the ballyhoo adds weight and keeps it in the water. Again, it's very important to make sure that when you're trolling, all your stuff stays in the water. Fish don't want to leap out of the water and eat it unless it's a flying fish under a kite or something. But yeah, these island lures of all kinds work for all the fish I'm talking about. This is one of my favorite ones, the Sea Star, the little round one. I like to pull this one short for wahoos. The biggest wahoo I ever caught, ate one of these, black and purple, that was maybe 15 feet off my transom. Big wahoos aren't afraid of the boat. They will come in and eat. It was a black and red one. I like the black and red ones. Again, it's a personal preference. I know that it doesn't really matter. When we're talking about lures, these lures here are great. These Halcos, they go really fast. You can troll fast with them if you want. They also work going slow. But these things work great for tunas, wahoos, and dolphin. The three fish that I'm fishing for when I'm offshore. So when I get offshore, if I don't have a bunch of stuff rigged up, which I usually do, these are the first things that go out while I'm getting my baits ready. These are easy to put on and put out, so we can be trolling and waiting until I get all the stuff out. But these things really work good. You notice they've got a lot of single hooks on these bigger ones, and the single hook works really well. I would put a swivel in between. These don't have swivels on them, but if you can put a barrel swivel on there, it allows the hook to swivel all the way 360 degrees, so he can't use it as leverage against you. They can kind of leverage on these, but I would put a swivel in them. And you should always have a swivel somewhere in your rig. You always have a. That's how every rig starts. You got your main line, your leader, and then a swivel of some sort. And if you're trolling, you have to have a swivel. This keeps everything from getting all twisted up. And a good ball bearing swivel, not a barrel swivel. Barrel swivels do not turn under load. If you get them tight in a barrel swivel and you spin it, it doesn't turn. Ball bearing swivels turn all the time. Same way when you're fishing on the bottom. Ball bearing swivels work better. They cost a lot more, like a lot more, but they really work. They really keep your stuff from spinning up. They'll keep your baits from spinning up real bad when you drop a big bait. You know, a lot of times you'll drop a big bait down and he gets all tangled up in the main line. The swivel helps a lot. A good ball bearing swivel helps a lot.